The Enfield Poltergeist, the true haunting of 284 Green Street. It all began on a quiet summer night in August 1977 in a modest two-story council house at 284 Green Street, Enfield, North London. The Hodgson family, a single mother named Peggy, and her 4 children, Margaret, 13, Janet, 11, Johnny, 10, and Billy, 7, lived an ordinary life. They were poor, but close. Life wasn't easy, yet their home was filled with laughter, warmth, and the everyday chaos of childhood. But everything changed on one strange, unforgettable night. The first signs. It started with something simple, a quiet tapping sound. It echoed softly through the walls of the children's room as the sisters were preparing to sleep. At first, they ignored it. Maybe it was the pipes or the wind. Old houses make noises. Everyone knows that. But the tapping grew louder. It started moving from one wall to another, like something walking inside the plaster. Margaret frowned. "Stop it, Janet," she whispered. Janet rolled over, her voice trembling. "I'm not doing anything." Then the sound stopped. Silence. Just as the girls began to relax, their beds shook violently, rattling across the floor. Both screamed. Their mother, Peggy, rushed upstairs. She burst into the room, her heart pounding. "What's going on?" she shouted. The girls were crying, pointing at the dresser. The heavy chest of drawers began sliding on its own across the floor, blocking the door as if something didn't want them to leave. Peggy, terrified, tried to push it back, but it wouldn't budge, as though some invisible force was holding it in place. And then, just as suddenly as it started, everything stopped. The unseen force. That night, the family didn't sleep. The next day, Peggy asked the neighbors for help. When they entered the house, they too heard the knocking, deep, rhythmic, echoing from the walls and ceiling. The sound seemed to follow them from room to room, intelligent, almost responsive. Whenever Peggy asked, "Is anyone there?" the house would answer with 3 slow knocks. Terrified, she called the police. 2 officers arrived that night. They didn't believe in ghosts, of course. But within minutes, one of them gasped in shock. A chair moved several feet across the floor, right before their eyes. The officer, Carolyn Heaps, later signed an official report saying she had witnessed furniture move without explanation. Media attention. Within days, reporters from the Daily Mirror came to investigate. They expected a silly story, maybe kids playing tricks. But as they stood in the living room, they heard banging from upstairs, loud and violent. When they ran up to the bedroom, they saw toys flying through the air, Lego bricks, marbles, even a heavy chair. One reporter was struck in the face by a flying Lego brick, leaving a bruise that lasted for days. The Mirror photographer, Graham Morris, snapped photos just as Janet was lifted from her bed, her body suspended in midair, her face twisted in terror. The story spread across London like wildfire. The Hodgson home became the center of one of the most famous hauntings in modern history. The investigators soon, the Society for Psychical Research, sent 2 investigators, Maurice Gross and Guy Lyon Playfair. Both were experienced researchers, known for investigating strange phenomena. What they encountered inside the Hodgson home would haunt them for the rest of their lives. They began recording the sounds, documenting everything that happened. Objects would fly across rooms. Knocks answered their questions. Voices echoed from empty corners. And always, the focus seemed to be on Janet, the 11-year-old girl. She would suddenly fall into strange trances. Her voice would change, deep, gravelly, like that of an old man. In one recording, the voice introduced itself. "My name is Bill Wilkins. I lived here before. I died in that chair, downstairs." The researchers were stunned. Janet had no way of knowing such details. Later, they discovered that a man named Bill Wilkins had indeed died in the house years earlier, exactly as the voice described. Voices from the void. The recordings of Janet's possession became the most chilling evidence of all. Experts analyzed the tapes and concluded that no child could produce such a low, sustained voice without damaging their vocal cords. In the recordings, Bill would laugh, swear, and even mock the investigators. Sometimes multiple voices seemed to come from Janet at once. When asked where he came from, the voice replied, "I come from the grave, just down the road." Janet often had no memory of these episodes. After each trance, she would wake up exhausted, pale, and confused. She began sleepwalking, waking up in strange places, even once found on top of a wardrobe, shaking in terror. The house turns hostile. The longer the investigators stayed, the worse things became. Furniture crashed to the ground in the middle of the night. Doors slammed shut. Family members were thrown from their beds. Cold spots formed in random areas of the house, so cold that one's breath turned white. Crosses were ripped from the walls, and the knocking, that dreadful knocking, never stopped. Janet began seeing a figure, a shadowy old man standing in the corner of her room. He would watch her as she slept, whispering her name. When she screamed, the shadow would vanish, leaving only the echo of his rasping laughter. Skepticism and suffering. Of course, not everyone believed. Many skeptics claimed it was all a hoax, that the children were seeking attention after their parents' divorce. Some accused Janet of faking the levitations, using hidden wires, or jumping on the bed. But even when investigators sealed the room, placed cameras, and watched through the night, objects still moved. Janet was sometimes seen sleeping in midair, her body completely horizontal, with nothing holding her up. Neighbors, police, and journalists all witnessed parts of the haunting. More than 30 people gave testimonies describing things they could not explain. Skepticism and suffering. Of course, not everyone believed. Many skeptics claimed it was all a hoax, that the children were seeking attention after their parents' divorce. Some accused Janet of faking the levitations, using hidden wires, or jumping on the bed. But even when investigators sealed the room, placed cameras, and watched through the night, objects still moved. Janet was sometimes seen sleeping in midair, her body completely horizontal, with nothing holding her up. Neighbors, police, and journalists all witnessed parts of the haunting. More than 30 people gave testimonies describing things they could not explain. Breaking point, after months of relentless terror, the Hodgsons were exhausted. Janet's health declined. She lost weight, rarely slept, and often cried without knowing why. Her mother, Peggy, felt helpless. "I just want it to stop," she sobbed during an interview. "I just want my children back." The investigators tried blessings, prayers, and even exorcisms. For a time, things would calm down, but always, the noises would return. In one terrifying moment, a heavy curtain wrapped itself around Janet's neck as if trying to strangle her. Her mother managed to pull it away just in time. That was when Morris Gross said softly, "This house, it doesn't want to let her go." The final manifestation. By mid-1979, nearly 2 years after the first incident, the activity began to fade. The voices grew weaker. The knocks became rare. Finally, silence returned to 284 Green Street. But Janet never truly recovered. Years later, she admitted that even as an adult, she sometimes felt that same presence, watching her, whispering from the dark. In interviews, she said, "It wasn't a game. It wasn't a hoax. Something lived in that house, something evil, and it wanted me." When asked what she remembered most, she replied quietly, "The voices. They never really stopped. They just went quiet." Legacy of fear. The Enfield Poltergeist became one of the most documented hauntings in history. Over 1,500 recorded incidents, hundreds of hours of audio, and dozens of witnesses made it one of the most convincing cases of supernatural activity ever studied. Some still claim it was a trick, a clever act of child mischief and media exaggeration. But those who were there, those who felt the cold air, heard the voices, or saw the impossible, they will tell you otherwise. Even today, visitors to 284 Green Street report strange sensations, cold drafts, knocking sounds, and the feeling of being watched. Neighbors say that at night, you can sometimes see a flicker of light from the upstairs window, and if you listen closely, you might hear the faint voice of a child whispering, "Mom, he's still here."